This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at Accenture.com/Spotify.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Yippee! Taxi! Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back to the Stone Zone, the Roger Stone Show. There's a lot of war news overnight. Last week, of course, Iran appeared to me to violate the ceasefire and the MOU peace framework put together by a negotiating team headed by Vice President Vance by attacking a boat within the Strait of Hormuz. A clear violation. Last night, we learned that Iran had launched attacks on U.S. military sites on Kuwait and Bahrain. That's a direct attack on the United States. President Trump immediately responded, suggesting Saturday that the peace deal with Iran was fraying as he announced U.S. strikes on multiple targets in the Islamic Republic in response to the attacks on ships in the Straits of Hormuz. So we're back to a shooting war while we're trying to make peace. So to try to help me make sense of all this, I had to call on someone with a much deeper understanding of military affairs, and I called on my good friend, retired Colonel Rob Maness, who has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to the country, has a distinguished military career. He is now retired, having retired after more than 32 years of service. During his military service, Colonel Rob Maness led numerous combat operations, including a bomber squadron commander in Enduring Freedom and Iraq Freedom. Colonel Maness also served as an enlisted bomb disposal technician, dangerous job, as well as Joint Chiefs of Staff's operations officer. He was actually on duty at the National Military Command Center when the attack on America went down on September 11. Colonel Maness, thank you for joining us today in the Stone Zone.
Hey, thank you, Roger. Thanks for having me on.
So, look, I'm an anti-interventionist Republican. I don't like endless foreign wars where our inherent national interests are not clear. And it's one of the main reasons I supported Donald Trump. On the other hand, he has intelligence that I don't have. Therefore, I supported both Midnight Hammer and Epic Fury because the intelligence must have indicated that these maniacs were closer to having a nuclear device than we thought. They bragged about it. They said they had enough enriched uranium for between 7 and 11 bombs. They said it at the negotiation table. And they have a long history of killing Americans and duplicity. The president has said repeatedly that we have essentially destroyed their military capability, yet they continue to have the ability to fire drones and missiles at their neighbors and now at the United States. So what am I to think of this?
Well, what you're to think of it is that the Iranians have never been able to be trusted. That's why the United States and Vice President Vance and President Trump went down this road to try to get them not just to the table to talk, but come up with some kind of framework where you could hold them accountable so that you could actually have positive things occur, ultimately hoping that they would become a peaceful nation and stop attacking their neighbors, stop attacking American forces in the region and our allies. But as we have talked about many times, Roger, the Iranian mullahs and their Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are fanatics. They will fight, I believe, until the bitter end, unfortunately. And this is just another example of that. And I think the president sees that. He's gone really the extra mile to try to help them get to a peaceful solution so they could even still exist. And when I say they, I mean the leadership that's in the country of Iran today.
Yeah, no, they were complaining about the attacks on Hezbollah by Israel. Secretary of State Marco Rubio negotiates an agreement between Israel and that country, Lebanon, to stop that, and yet they still attack American ships. I think that they make a huge mistake in understanding the patience of Donald Trump for weakness. Trump is not anything but weak. He understands the concept of peace through strength. How much damage do you think he did in these two major attacks on the country?
Well, he went after their forces over the last two attacks that are around the Straits of Hormuz to try to get them to wake up and realize that they cannot just take pot shots at civilian ships or any ships really in the Strait, and that they're not going to control the Strait. That's been part of the talks. The talks are still ongoing, from what I understand, as far as laying down the technical framework on the nuclear material and the Strait of Hormuz itself. And that kind of activity. So, but unfortunately, the message is not getting through to the Iranians that have the capability to fire the weapons. And now they've struck a second ship in the Strait of Hormuz, which are not even related to the United States or our allies. They're, it's just cargo ships and vessels trying to get through the Strait and in and out of it. So. Unfortunately, I think you'll see probably more responses from the United States. And as time goes on, if the Iranians don't back down and decide that they're going to remain at the peace table, then this operation will ramp back up, unfortunately.
What are the president's military options at this point in terms of why would we not just go to the island Karg Island, where all of their energy facilities are, and either seize that or destroy it?
Well, the challenge for that is twofold. One, the president's been trying, he understands the infrastructure that's there, and he's been trying to preserve that infrastructure for what happens after this conflict concludes, no matter who is in charge in Iran, to do that. And then second, we could easily go in with the Marines backed up by Air Forces and our allies in the region and take the island and take that infrastructure, but it leaves the personnel that are there open to pot shots from the Iranians, their facilities for firing rockets and missiles and those kinds of activities, while we have really greatly reduced them, especially their launch capabilities. They have put these deeply and hardened underground launchers all around the country, and it's like finding. It's very difficult to find all of them at one time. So they still have some capability there. They still have missile and drone capability, and the danger with putting our Marines on the island itself to hold it is they become susceptible to those kind of pot shots on a regular basis, and that's the challenge there. It's a difficult prospect.
Yeah, I don't think Americans want to see boots on the ground. That is the legacy of the Bushes and the Clintons and the Obamas.
That's right.
It will not be Trump's legacy. I think he's clear about that. On the other hand, he's been talking about the fact that it'd be unacceptable for the Iranians to have a nuclear bomb as early as 1988. When he spoke in New Hampshire, it has always consistently been his position, and anyone who pretends otherwise doesn't know his real history. Colonel Maness, given your international experience, are you surprised at the lack of our support from some of our NATO allies who, let's face it, have not stepped up, not letting us fly over their space or use their bases or use the bases that we paid for in their country? Does this surprise you?
It not only surprises me, Roger, it's shocking. I was the NATO nuclear command and control expert in the nuclear operations and the Joint Staff when I was a young major back in the early 2000s, and I'm absolutely shocked that the leadership of the NATO countries and their military leadership has not been pushing the civilian leadership to get involved in this, especially when they're the countries that are really the most impacted. A lot of us think that the president should just shut the Strait down, blockade the entire thing, and let these guys wither on the vine. Of course, we need to do the overland routes too, and the other sea routes coming in from off of the Black Sea and those kind of areas. But it could be done, and it could be done even more effectively if our NATO allies would engage with us on this, but they don't seem to be willing to do it. Israel has stayed with us, but you mentioned the Lebanon issue, and Lebanon is not really part of the discussions between the United States and the Iranians that J.D. Vance has been leading and those kind of things, although we have asked Israel to help us in that regard, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has done some things to help us get to a position where this could end and the Iranians would come to their senses. But, based on last night's attacks on U.S. facilities in Kuwait and the other Persian Gulf area, I don't have much high hopes that this is going to get resolved peacefully anytime soon.
Yeah,
although I don't think it's going to get dragged out either. The president's not one to do that.
I'm particularly disappointed in Italy and Meloni, although I've noticed a pattern with her. She was elected as a populist, but then Biden was president. She didn't really start talking the talk until Trump was miraculously returned to power in the greatest comeback in political history. But she has not always lived up to her rhetoric, particularly disappointed in the Italians not letting us use the bases in their country for this operation. As an Italian American, I find that embarrassing. But it's typical. And look, in Trump's first term, he's talked about this issue from the beginning. When we went to New Hampshire together in 1988, when he spoke at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, he correctly attacked our NATO allies for being delinquent in their dues and never paying their fair share for their own protection. Not only was what we were paying disproportionate, they weren't even paid up. In his first term, he collected $650 million dues in past due payments from our NATO partners. But it's the NATO partners who are keeping the Ukraine-Russian conflict going because of the huge money that flows to them because of it. The president has 2 wars now on his hands that he has to resolve, and this one is appearing to continue to be very complex. I'm still hopeful that the MOU will hold together. The president's instincts for peace are a strong one, but unless he's satisfied that they'll have no access to the materials needed to make a bomb, and until they already stop oppressing their people, I don't know how this can hold together. They say they'll do things, but they really cannot be trusted. President Trump is giving peace a chance, but at the end of the day, I would not want to wear out his patience, not at all. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Colonel Rob Maness about China and what's going on there. And specifically, I want to talk to him also about Cuba and what he thinks the prospects are for a free Cuba. Marco Rubio and President Donald Trump have the heat on the Cuban regime, and everyone in South Florida wants to know where that is going and whether we're moving to a free and democratic Cuba anytime soon. So thank you for joining us here today in the Stone Zone on the Roger Stone Show. We're talking to Colonel Rob Maness. Coming up, we'll do our political roundtable with Troy Smythe of Slingshot.news, so don't go away. Welcome back into the Stone Zone. I'm absolutely convinced that if Joe Biden had been reelected or if Kamala Harris had been elected, the Communist Chinese would have moved to take Taiwan, something they have said they're going to do for 30-plus years. But after watching Donald Trump in Operation Midnight Hammer, Operation Epic Fury, the stealth operation in Venezuela, and the fact that we've been attacking drug traffickers in this hemisphere, I think they would think twice. Others say that the Chinese military is not up to that task at this moment. Colonel Maness, what say you?
I agree with that. I don't think the Chinese military is up to that task at this moment, and I think that the performance of their weapon systems in the war with Iran proves that. It proved that when we went into Venezuela and successfully conducted that operation, those were Chinese air defense systems and that type of hardware, and it was defeated handily by the United States and our allies' attack capabilities. So I think the Chinese are back on their heels right now. Of course, you can never count them out because they have as you know, have a very long-term view of history in the world, and they're going to try to do what they think is in their interest, no matter what. But we do have to keep an eye on them. We do have them in a good position. I think that opens a lot for us vis-a-vis Cuba. I have high hopes for our relationships with the Cubans. I think the Cuban government is very, very much weakened over the last couple of years, and time is right for America to go in and help their people become a free, prosperous people again.
Well, there's an additional reason, and you and I both know this, and that is Cuba has become a very sophisticated spy center for the Chinese communists, that they are using it to spy on the United States. There are some reports that they have defensive missiles on the island, which could be easily, within an hour, I'm told, programmed to be offensive missiles. The Chinese are at our doorstep. This is another reason why we have to bring democracy to Cuba and freedom to Cuba. We also to kick the Chinese out from 90 miles from our shore. And watching the slow strangulation of the regime by Marco Rubio and the president, who've been quite skillful, stopping a major shipment of oil at a time that the economic pressure is really on the regime. It's sad that the Cuban people have to suffer, but they have corrupt leadership that has to ultimately fall, and I'm still hopeful. On the other hand, there is a cottage industry in Miami of those who have profited greatly from their opposition to the regime when nothing changes. I think we have to have really serious, meaningful change, and I'm hopeful for that. But I think you're right about the Chinese, and I think Trump understands that they are our principal problem. He's now competing with them to get rare earth minerals, where they were trying to corner the market. It would be very dangerous for our economy as well as our national security. He's fighting them tooth and nail to acquire rare earth minerals for this country. He's competing with them there. So I think that they are the great danger, not the Russians. Someone will accuse me of being a Russian agent for saying that. But the Russians and we have one common interest that is clear. We both have a problem with radical Islam terrorists. And therefore we could be cooperating if we could just get this war over. And when will we have elections in Ukraine? If you're Zelensky, the answer is never. He's postponed them repeatedly. So those who keep telling me that this struggle is about democracy aren't being realistic about the situation and the meat grinder that is this horrific war between Russia and Ukraine. So the president has with that to worry about as well. I want to thank our guest, retired Colonel Rob Maness, a man who has served his country with great integrity and a man whose views on all things geopolitical and military I always respect. Colonel Maness, thank you for joining us. Where can people read your Substack?
Thank you, Roger. You can read it at the Colonel's Brief on Substack. Just type in the Colonel's Brief. You can find us at robmaness.com. My first book is out. You can get that at robmaness.com, too. There's a bonus chapter that you can download there for free. All we ask is to get your email address. I appreciate everything you do for us.
Tell us the name of your book.
It's What You Can Do About It. It's a little bit biographical, but it's more about what people can learn about how they can do things to defeat the left.
All right. God bless you. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.